Hi guys, hope everybody's well. In the last video I made a proclamation, or certainly made a statement that somebody had given me some advice and a bit of a tip, and that had genuinely changed how my car handled for round 4 of Rugmasters, of which there might be an additional fridge magnet that isn't on a fridge. I know she won't let me put a fridge up here with any beer in it. Anyway, the point being is I wanted to share that knowledge, because if anybody's like me and you listen to some of the information sometimes that people give you, you've not been doing the car racing thing very long, which I haven't, and sometimes I don't always interpret what's being said quite well, or you might be a bit shy and unwilling to ask for help and recommendations, in which case, here's a source of information, put it to some use, see if it helps, because it certainly helped me. Anyway, in order to do this, I need to explain it in the same way he explained it to me. So I've got some crayons, I'm going to treat myself like I'm a 4-year-old, and we're going to talk about... So to set the stage, I guess I better talk about exactly what I use. So I've got a Futaba 3PV. Apparently it's good. It's certainly a step up from what the ready to run kits came with when I first started. There's a lot more bits you can tweak and stuff you can do, but with that, as I've said many times, that brings additional complexity and you don't always understand why you're doing the bits you're doing. So with that in mind, let's talk about this. So when I first got my controller, I've no idea exactly what the settings were, but I assumed, just as with Clarkson would say, more is more. So when somebody said your EXP controls how much power you're putting down, I just made the assumption that more is more, and therefore I had my setting at 100%. Now what that means is I'm getting 100% of the power almost immediately, and then the power band is curling off like that. So the best way to describe it, as soon as I'm exiting a corner and I'm tapping just the throttle a tiny little bit, it is delivering almost 100% of available power to the motor within that tiny little squeeze of the throttle on the trigger. Now, put that in a perspective, that means that my tyres are basically spinning up out of the corner, and therefore, if you look back at my final race, one of the reasons I have such difficulty coming out of corners that I've been putting down to car setup or the wrong tyre choice, which all helps, I'm not saying it doesn't, but a huge difference I've found is when I've started playing with this. Because if I'm coming out of a tight corner, especially in a race situation, I'm all excited and I go straight to full power to get the power on as I think as early as possible. The car is just wanting to pirouette on itself. Just puts the power down, it becomes like a drift car, and away we go in concentric circles. So, if this is the power curve that I've got when I've got 100% EXP. I hope that sort of makes sense. Right, so we've now seen it what it's like at 100%. Now if it was at 0%, so I've now got my EXP set at 0, my throttle curve would look like this. So I've got almost no power at all through 75% of trigger movement. And all the power then gets delivered right in that last third or last quarter of depression of the trigger. So it's all coming on then. Now that gives you quite a steady and slow exit from a corner, crawling, and oh my god, we're in a straight line, and it just takes off. Again, in a race situation, I can't imagine where this is a right setup. So I guess there is a balance to be had. So if this is your EXP set at 0%, or it is for the brand I use. Now some controllers will let you go into negative EXP. So my range goes from 0 to 100%. Okay? Some controllers will go from 100% to minus 100%, I assume. Again, that's an assumption. I don't know. I can only comment on the stuff that I've got. So what did I do that made my car suddenly feel like it was really, really drivable? Well, I set my EXP to 50%. And all of a sudden, I had what everybody calls a linear line. A straight line through the throttle band. So as I was depressing the throttle, I was immediately getting acceleration comparable to how hard and how fast I depressed the throttle. And that is what you would assume the controller came with. But it wasn't. It came, I assume, at 100%, because when I was talking about it with somebody and they said, well, put your EXP at 100%, because I was like, well, that doesn't seem as fast as everybody else's. And I was inexperienced, so it wasn't about how I cared for the battery or what I did to look after the motor or things like that. I just assumed it was a setting, and I was looking for that quick instant fix without any understanding. So I immediately set that to 100%, and the results, as you can see. So for the race that will come up in this weekend, if you want to watch that, you will see my car suddenly looks more drivable, more controllable, and that is because I've got more confidence as I'm depressing the accelerator, as I'm pulling the trigger. It's a more I don't know the right words to use to describe it, excuse my poor vocabulary. It's a more steady line of delivery of the power. So where you expect to be, if you're halfway depressed, you get 50% of your power. If you're fully depressed, you get 100% of the power. And the way it delivers it, it's over time, it's coming in nicely. Now, as you get more experience driving these cars, you might want to go to 60, which then will give you a line that I guess is kind of more like that. Or you could go to 70. So as you get more and more experience with the car and how it handles, there are tweaks you can make. And I suppose, therefore, if you're dealing in wet conditions or uber slippy tracks where you don't want to put any power down until your car's got some momentum, you could go to, for example, 40%, which takes you more like that, I suppose. I think I'm explaining this right. Hopefully you're getting the drift of what I'm sort of saying. So you could, rather than blaming the car and the setup, as I have been doing certainly for the past 2 or 3 months, have a look at your EXP setting, assuming you've got that on your control. I hope you found that useful. I hope I've explained it in a way that makes it feel like it makes a bit more sense. Anyway, if you have found this video useful, genuinely it helps, and thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Just click, costs nothing. And comment, say something. If I've got it wrong, please put some more information in the comments. I'm sure I've covered it in a very simplistic way, but hopefully it makes a bit more sense. Anyway, toodle pip.